What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect, and welcome back to the channel. So we are a little over halfway through the NBA season, and the rookies have had quite a bit of time to establish themselves in the league, and of course we have a ton to talk about. Now, I intended on making more of these throughout the year, I just haven't had the time, and the easiest way to do this now is just running through who my all-rookie teams will be to this point in the season, and then tackling the extras and others in the mix who have stood out. With that being said, Paolo Banchero has been putting together one of the more impressive rookie seasons in recent memory. He's cooled off some from his hot early season start where he looked nearly invincible, but that hasn't stopped him from still putting up about 26-4 and being a unique physical specimen at still 20 years old, and forming a real synergy with star sophomore in Franz Wagner, looking like the future of the league, and leading the Magic to some good basketball as of late. He's been an excellent passer in that wing forward spot, an area I think we only continue to see him grow into as he gets to see more and learn what he can and can't get away with. And he's continued to get to the free throw line unlike any other rookies you'll ever see. He's currently taking nearly 8 of them a game, which is good for 11th in the league, up there with the Jaws and Tatums and above guys like LeBron, KD, and Julius Randle, to name a few. And when you're in that company, it makes your scoring floor so unbelievably high. I think the main focuses for him will be on improving his consistency as a three-point shooter. He's currently capable, but still just at around 30% on the year, and if and when he can be a consistent 35+% guy on about 4 or 5 attempts, he's going to be an automatic 25 points a game and an absolute matchup nightmare. And then defensively, he's got a lot of work to do, but to me, he still doesn't have this liability outlook that he was tagged with coming in. He's got to improve his rotations and the closeouts first and foremost. Some of the effort can kind of come and go still, and that was something that we've often seen from him, but that's more long-term stuff, and we'll check back in on that at the end of this season and next year. But right now, he's my rookie of the year by a solid margin, and depending on how quickly he can improve on certain things, I think he may find himself in that all-star convo next year, especially if the Magic can finally get some guys healthy and fill certain holes on their roster. They should be at least a play-in team. Bennedict Mathurin has also cooled way off from what he was doing in that first month or so of the year, but he still put together the second most impressive season so far to me, and he started to get back to that initial level in the last 5 or so games. I've loved how Indiana has used him, putting him in a lot of positions to attack with limited dribbles, though he's done some work as more of a primary that's actually been pretty encouraging lately, and he's been a killer with that jab to create space and opportunities. He's continued to be a fantastic finisher as he was in college, but he's taken it to a whole new level, adjusting it for the NBA. And the ways that he's gotten to the free throw line have been ridiculous, and if it wasn't for Paolo doing it at an even crazier rate, it would be something I think would get even more attention, especially from people who, don't necessarily care about the rookies and young guys in the league as much as probably most of you do. Now, the next step for him is getting better at making reads and plays for his teammates, especially with a guy like Halliburton out. He made strides at this from his freshman to sophomore season at Arizona, but it's definitely something he can improve on right now, as well as the defensive activity and screen navigation that we talked about earlier this year. Pacers fans could probably tell you better than me all the specifics on that end, but other than that, he's been very, very good, better than expected even as a consensus top 10, top 8 guy, and I'm excited to see what he can ultimately become in the league.
Shot clock 1, Mathurin.
Now, Jalen Williams, aka J-Dub, has been extremely impressive this year, carrying on what he showed at Summer League into the NBA and taking it to another level. That ability to impact the game at a high level, both with and without the ball and on both ends of the floor, has really been there in abundance. He's leading guards in total dunks on the season. He's moving well without the ball. He's finishing plays off with little runners and floaters, making plays for others, and making timely plays against teams like the Hawks and the Cavs that have directly led to wins for a surging Thunder team. He's the type of player that every good team wants at least one of, and he's still not even 50 games into his career yet. Now, he hasn't shot the ball as well as he did last year at Santa Clara, which was a hesitation many like myself had for him, at least in the short term, but outside of that, I've been impressed by about everything he's done out there, and even on some of his off nights, he's been able to make a real impact, and that's why he currently comes in at that 3rd spot on my rookie rankings.
And J-Dub picks the pocket of Trae Young. They'll take it.
Now Keegan Murray has produced about as expected this year. He's had a couple game slumps in there, but he's really been mostly a model of consistency and exactly what you thought he'd be, and that is solid. He's been the best shooter in the class to this point, going for about 43% on 6 attempts, which is a fantastic way to start a career. And those are the type of numbers that'll get you on a whole lot of record lists if he stays anywhere near that and builds on it over the course of his career. And he's even done it pretty well off of movement as well. He hasn't been great defensively, but he's been getting better there, especially from the team perspective. And it seems Mike Brown calling him out has at least given him some sense of urgency, whether it was completely necessary or not. And ultimately, while the numbers aren't super flashy and a couple of others may have a better raw statistical case, he's doing all of this on a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, and he's been a big part of their success. Walker Kessler has been tremendous since getting more consistent minutes, and he's one of the guys from last year's class that I really kicked myself over talking myself out of over the course of the year last year. His elite rim protection has translated to the league about as well as you ever could have thought, especially just about halfway through his first action in the NBA, as he's currently leading qualified players in block percentage at around 8. He's been a very good play finisher, showing off good touch and footwork and shooting about 70% from the field. And since he's been a full-time starter in January, statistically he's been good for about 11 and 11 with 2 blocks, which is self-explanatory for a rookie. Now he still has a ton of work to do in his positioning, the pick and roll and defending in space some, as well as improving quite a bit from the free throw line. But the other parts of his game have currently outweighed some of those deficiencies or improvement areas, and he looks like a real piece of Utah's future coming in over from Minnesota in the Rudy Gobert trade. But this is how I see the first team / rookie of the year race at the moment. We'll get into some of the others looking to make that second half run to rise up the list, but for right now, Paolo and Mathurin are pretty locked in at the top 2, and then the next 3 guys and a few others have a shot to move up and down as there's still a ton of season left. Jaden Ivey has had his ups and downs throughout the season, but he's still managed to produce and flash his super high upside as a creator and athlete. The way he can get to the paint and run out in transition really is special, and he's already in that upper echelon still as a rookie. It's still just about adding that pace and deceleration to fully weaponize it and really become a true all-around threat with the ball in his hands. It's been better than it was in college and grown over the season, but there's still room to grow, particularly from the mid-range where he has struggled quite a bit. Lately, he's been growing as a passer and making plays for others, going for a career-high 11 dimes against Milwaukee. And honestly, for the Pistons, getting him those primary ball handling reps down the stretch should be pretty high on their list of priorities, considering they're in that #1 pick race right now. He's got to cut down on the turnovers. He's at nearly 4 a game over the last month or so and over 3 a game on the year, a lot of which comes from him being sped up and just going too fast, though some of them are just from him trying things or trying to fit it in a tight window. I'm jumping around quite a bit, but there is still a lot to like with what he's shown, and he's still very much in that first team mix and would pretty easily go in the top 5 for me if there was a redraft like we mentioned before. Now Jeremy Sohan has been one of the more fun rookies to watch, and on a rebuilding Spurs team, Pop has thrown him out there and given him a lot more responsibility than past rookies have had, and that bodes well for his long-term success in my opinion. He recently just went for 30 on the Suns, adding in 5 dimes, 8 boards, and making 3 threes. And as much as I like Sohan as a prospect, I didn't think he'd be capable of getting 30 points or even finding 25 shots to take as a rookie, so that was great to see. He's continued to be a high-level defender, as was his calling card as a prospect. He's been thrown into the fire guarding the likes of Kawhi, Luka, and switching on to guards, sticking with them at the point of attack. He's still not the high blocks guy or event creator, but from what I've watched, his positioning and rotations have continued to impress, and he's on track to be that all-defense candidate down the line. He's showing off that playmaking ability in a big way, even running the 1 in a few games and otherwise serving as a high-level connector, and that remains the part of his game I'm most excited to watch grow, especially considering what he's been doing as a shooter. When he's drawing that closeout and is able to attack it, it opens up a ton for him on a perimeter. He's not a finished product, and he can still get a lot better in a lot of the areas that we talked about, but his energy, effort, and clear dedication to getting better just by seeing him shoot the one-handed free throws and upping his percentage like 30% in the process, that's someone that you want to bet on long term. I was a big fan of Ivy's teammate Jalen Duren in the draft last year. He was the 5th player on my board, but even then I wasn't sure he'd be putting up 23 and 15 games in the first half of his rookie season as the league's youngest player. He's been an absolute menace on the glass regardless of how many minutes he's got. He's 10th in total rebound percentage and 6th in offensive rebound percentage, which again, at a young 19 is pretty significant. He's continued to be a real presence as a play finisher, showing off that elite athleticism at that size, and as guys like Ivy grow and Cade comes back, it's only natural that he'll be more and more productive in that regard. Defensively, we have to mention some of the stuff he's done as a help side guy, and even on chase downs protecting the rim. He's absolutely erased several shots this year, and despite being just under a block a game, it's clear to see that this will be a big part of what he does. Improvement wise, I think he's had flashes, but still needs some work on the perimeter and in the pick and roll, which is pretty customary for a young big. His positioning has left a lot more to be desired, but it's a part of the process. And to me, Duren has continued to be one of the more intriguing long-term prospects from this class, and there's real reason to be excited about him, whether he can keep track of his passport or not. And now to the second team guys and a few others still in the mix. And for someone who is still younger than many of the top prospects in the 2023 draft, AJ Griffin is really having a fantastic season. He's made multiple game winners and really just been one of the few bright spots in a very strange year for the Hawks. He's continued to be an absolute marksman from three, making 40% feel a little low considering he's had a slump or two in there this year. And speaking to that, as I'm making this video, he's at 49, 40, 90 splits with a true shooting percentage over 60, which is absolutely ridiculous for any player, let alone a teenager. He's flashed that self-creation ability that was there in doses at Duke, but a huge part of what he did pre-injuries in high school. And he's been much better defensively than he was in college. You know, still not great on that end, but he's not a complete liability as a rookie, and that's a great sign. I personally think that he's been deserving of more and more consistent minutes, but regardless, he's off to a fantastic start, and if we were to redraft, there's absolutely no way he falls to 16. That's been a mostly disappointing season for Jabari Smith, especially shooting the ball, but he's still had a lot of high points in there, whether it's been defending guys like Giannis or really just the defensive versatility in general. And overall having performances like he had against the Kings, Mavs, or Warriors, and a few others off the top of my head. He hasn't been this lost cause as he can be explained as sometimes, or the stat sheet might kind of represent. And if we're continuing to look for the positives, the fact that he's improved so much as a finisher and some as a driver from last year at Auburn to now is pretty substantial and something to hang your hat on if you're a Rockets fan, as he's at over 67% in the restricted area. And honestly, down the stretch, you really just want to see him simply knock down some more shots and show a little more consistency on both ends of the floor. I think he's going to be a really nice player, someone who impacts winning, and once they can get a sense of direction as an organization and he can find his rhythm as a shooter, I think he'll be just fine. Tari Eason's lack of minutes have been a pretty clear indictment on the current Houston situation. Just having a team that is led by Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., and Alperen Şengün, it only makes sense to have someone like Tari out there to do the dirty work, defend, and bring energy as much as possible, but you know, for whatever reason that hasn't been the case. He's continued to be super active on the glass and in creating events defensively, and has been a solid shooter from deep at 36%, despite it being on lower attempts. Someone who makes winning plays, and he's a guy I'm really excited to keep watching, though it probably won't fully pop until they start to figure it out as a team. Andrew Nembhard is another guy I undervalued last year, especially considering how good he was at the beginning of the year and how he absolutely dominated the draft combine. And he's put together a really nice rookie season so far. Now he's been in the midst of a rough patch lately, coinciding with Tyrese Halliburton's injury, as he's shooting under 30% from the field and 20% from three, and failing to kind of step up in his absence, which is honestly fine. It's a different role without an all-star point guard for a rook to adjust to. And all in all, he's had a very good rookie season full of big shots, high-level passes, and excellent defense, especially for a rookie guard. The slew of injuries New Orleans has had this year have given a few more opportunities to Dyson Daniels, and he's really made the most of them. It hasn't always resulted in the craziest stat lines or greatest offensive looks, but for my money, he's already one of the best guard defenders in the league at 19. And he's made plays for others at a good level when given more ball handling duties. He's been a solid shooter on low attempts. Now he's currently trying to get back from an ankle injury, but even then, when the Pelicans get healthier, he'll probably have to take a bit of a back seat, just given how the rotation have looked at full strength. But you know, who knows, they've had an awful month, so they might switch it up. Regardless, I think he's already a playoff caliber rotation guy if he can continue knocking down shots from deep, and someone who could help shift the series, and that's been great to see. Now that's a look at who I'd have on the second team or in the overall hierarchy of rookies in the league right now. You only get 10 guys on the all rookie teams, but it was tough to not mention some of these other guys still as serious contenders. And we still have a few others to mention briefly, starting with Shaedon Sharpe, who has been a walking highlight reel all season long. There are very few players in the league more explosive than he is, and hopefully he puts on a show in the dunk contest to show it off even further. He's had his high moments knocking down shots and making some things happen off the bounce, also with his share of lows in there as well, but the fact that he's essentially jumped from prep to pro and is already contributing and looking like he belongs in a lot of ways is a complete win, and I'm excited to see what he comes back looking like next season, especially being able to study a guy like Damian Lillard. Christian Brown has been a guy that's been tough to keep off the floor for his defense and energy on the wing, and it's clear he's won over Coach Michael Malone already. I don't think you're expecting a ton of development from him offensively in the future, but just being that tough-nosed defender who can knock down shots, cut and move, and get out in transition is going to make him a lot of money in this league. And his college teammate Ochai Agbaji has started to rightfully get some minutes and make a contribution in January. He's shooting 48% from 3 and looking like he'll contribute in a real way in the coming years. Jaden Hardy has had very limited opportunities, but in the ones that he's had 25 against Portland, 15 against New Orleans and Boston, while also playing extremely well in that same G League we saw him have some struggles in just about a year ago. He's much better than the 37th best prospect in the draft, and I think in some other situations he'd find himself in the all-rookie convos, but for now, it's good to be intrigued by what he's shown when he's gotten more than 15 minutes of game time. I've really liked what I've seen from Max Christie so far. He's still super young, but this is the type of team I think he could and will excel on in the future. That defensive ability we talked about all year last year has been on full display. He's going to be very good there as he grows physically. He's been knocking down shots as well. And since finally getting playing time in the league, Mark Williams has been productive, albeit on a struggling Charlotte squad. He's not doing anything too spectacular or that'll lead highlight reels, but the defense and play finishing has been there, and I'm very confident he'll at least contribute, which is good considering the guys who went after him in the draft last year. And if Mason Plumlee is traded, he could make a late season run at these rookie rankings and really establish himself as the big man of the future for the Hornets. We're almost out of here, but other guys like Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, Marjon Beauchamp, Malachi Branham, Ousmane Dieng, and Jay Will from OKC, Ty Washington, and even Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Christian Koloko have made contributions at different points of the season. There's still a few others we didn't mention, but we don't have time to get through every last person in the class, so forgive me if I left out your favorite guy. I appreciate y'all for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and comment down below what you think about this rookie class so far and what your all rookie teams would look like right now. As always, I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.